Hey creators, welcome back to the club. We're your hosts. I'm Akila Friend.
And I'm Ebony Chapman.
And today, for you guys that are on screen, you also already know that we are joined by someone special, a digital branding expert and founder of digital communications agency, Nahamani.org, all right? Through which she helps nonprofits and small businesses alike create sustainable and successful brand identities. Don't we need that, child? Don't we need that? All right, Nahamani Yisrael, welcome to the club. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you guys.
Yes. We're going to get into all things personal branding, what you do at Nahamani.org, the general climate when it comes to branding overall, because especially us within this like millennial, Gen Z culture, even just in general, 2022, it's all about the rebrand. How are you going to pop out and pop up after this pandemic? So I think you're in a prime position right now to do what you do. So how about just to jump right in it, tell everyone a little bit more about yourself and how Nahamani.org came to be.
Okay, so I am Nahamani Yisrael. I am my brand. I actually took on the name Nahamani when I was about 16 years old, and it is both aspirational and it describes me both at the same time. It means compassionate leader. So that is what I want to be when I grow up, and that's how I want the world to see me even today. I started the business in 2015. I was working with a few of my very select clients and close friends, and I just saw a need for a digital marketing agency that understood the Black experience, understood how to help people really communicate their value. A lot of times people have a great product, they have a great service, but they're not really sure how to tell that story and how to make it relatable. So that's where I came in. I started off, it was just me, hence the name, and the business has grown exponentially, in part due to the pandemic and the focus on being digital and having to figure out how to communicate with people all over the world. So now I manage a team of 7 content creators, and we do everything from creating website experiences, creating social media for our clients, and really just helping them show up big, show up bold, and make their mark on the world.
Yes, you better come through and make that mark on the world. That's exactly what we need in this space. I know Akila and I are always talking about branding, rebranding. What does that look like? Personal brands. Our brand is the Black Creators Club. Like, there's just so many different things, as an entity or a media brand, we want to have the brand's identity, but then we also want to have our own personal identities. And so I would, we'll get into how we can talk about and break that down as well, just as like people trying to build a business and build a brand. But you've been rebranding since you were 16. So can you tell others of your story and how your personal branding has always had you on the it's always been on the forefront of your mind? Like, why is branding so important to you?
It is really important. I grew up in a family where some of my family members were very well known in the community, and I always wanted to stand out. At a young age, I think I did some of that the wrong way. And when I was 16, I was invited to a Bible study, and I converted to Judaism. Very first day I was there, I'm like, I'm in my place. These are my people. Let's do this. So I assumed the name Nahamani. So my best friend and I went through a Bible dictionary and went through all of the thousands of names that are referenced. And I picked Nahamani because I felt like it stood out. It sounded different. It doesn't really sound Hebrew. And when I saw the meaning, I'm like, oh, that is it. And one thing I love about the story, Nahamani is only mentioned one time in the entire Bible. There's no before story. So there's no legacy I have to live up to in that regard. And there's no after story. So there's no bad part or they did this. And I say, if I can live a life where I'm just mentioned, then I did a great job. So I started using the name, and my mother was not happy with the idea of her 16-year-old changing her name. And she, for years, refused to call me Nahamani. To this day, if she writes me a check, she leaves it blank. That's her little silent protest, like, you fill out that other name, because I named you Dana. I really wanted to be able to represent who I was spiritually, who I am as just a community person of, that's really concerned about the community and concerned about others, and just have something that stood out and people will remember it. So my name is got a very unique pronunciation. It's got lots of vowels and consonants, and it's one of those names that once you get it, you'll never forget it. And I think that's important when you're talking about branding, is having something that's memorable. Maya Angelou said, like, people forget what you say, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. So making sure that every experience, every interaction reminds them that I am a compassionate leader.
Yes, I love that. It's very thoughtful and very thoughtful. And folks like to say, like, at 16, you don't know what you want, you don't know what you want to do, you don't know who you are. And in some cases, that is very real. You still have life to experience, but it's also, great to see and great to really remember. No, at 16, at 17, within those high school years, like, you are very much aware, and sometimes even showing up as your highest self in some cases, because you have that fearlessness about you. Sometimes rebellion, but oftentimes that fearlessness. And so it sounds like that's kind of like what you leaned into. Yes, this is not an episode and something on Judaism versus Christianity or anything of that nature, but I think it's really important to even just like delve into like the fact that, I think as Black people, specifically Black Americans, we are super, as a whole, generally conservative when it comes to religion, right? And very much like, listen, we are Christian, honey. This is what we are. We are Methodist, we are Baptist, we are Pentecostal, but it's within that realm. And for you to step out and say, no, this is actually a religion or a sect of this religion that I align more with, I think is pretty powerful. So I just want to give you the floor, Lord, to speak on that.
Hey, well, thank you. I do. I think, we were given Christianity as a religion, and many of us took it and made it our own in many different ways. I was raised Baptist. We went to church 7 days a week, sometimes more than once a day. And, I grew up in the church system, and I still have very close friends that are, Christian and at that same church. But for me, it was about defining my relationship with my higher power for myself. I can't do that through my mother, my grandparents, and the religious choices that they made. I had to really spend some time with myself and really sit and understand what that relationship is going to be. And it's very individual. I am not one that goes out and I'm like shaking my finger at people and you must convert and you must live just like me. And if you don't practice the way that I practice, and that's the only one pathway to happiness or to the afterlife or whatever it is you believe, because I think God is bigger than that. And he can't be defined by the little constraints that we put around religion and around books and all of that. I think that if you can just spend some time and understand what he wants you to be and just have that one-on-one relationship with him, I don't care what you call yourself, what day of the week you practice, all of that can be amended. But, that relationship and that connection with a power that is greater than ourselves, that, created us just by speaking us into existence, that's powerful. That's where our power lies, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that that's great. And I think that just to even add on to like a personal story too, like I was I guess confirmed as Catholic. And so that's something that like I was identified with as like being Catholic. My dad's Catholic, my grandmother was Catholic. So I was like, okay, like, I was baptized as Lutheran, but only because I went to a Lutheran school and it was something that everyone was around. And we're talking, we have religion class. I was like, I go to my parents, I'm like, am I baptized? And they're like, no. And I was like, oh, I'm learning about being baptized. I want to be baptized. So I made the choice to be baptized as Lutheran, but also not thinking or considering any other religion, So then when I go to Catholic school, I'm like, oh, well, now everyone's Catholic. I want to be Catholic. So now I'm confirmed as a Catholic, right? And so I think as time continues to progress and move on, and I learn more about myself, more about religion, more about God, that I was like, I don't even think I want to be associated necessarily with like a sector of religion personally, as like a personal choice. I still believe in God. Like my relationship with him is great. Like, I don't think I love to go to church though, right? Like, I don't want to get that wrong, but it's just, I don't want to be confined by like these set of rules by like this religion to do X, Y, and Z to like be able to praise God. Like I can do that on my own as well. So I commend you, and I wanted to just share that little anecdote to be like, there is a space for people to explore outside of what they think is quote unquote normal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
So
I think that talks a lot about branding, because, you know, we can't allow ourselves to be put in these little boxes and, you know, to be force fed, you know, well, you're this, you live in this part of the world, or you're this age. So you're, you know, I'm Generation Y. And you know what I mean? So you can only like this kind of music, and you can only eat this kind of, like, the world is bigger and more beautiful than that. And I am not about that. I mean, there are some attributes that are true, but it's bigger than that. And it can be better than that. You don't have to just allow yourself to just, I'm just going to sit over here with the Gen Y people, and I don't understand millennials, or I don't understand Gen Z. Because we're all connected. We're more alike than we are different. Yeah. So, you know, all those labels and stuff, they're like the sticky labels that you print out in your printer, and you can peel those off and put a different label on if you want.
Exactly. Super simple.
Right?
Yes. Well, you know, speaking of labels and branding, I think coming off of the recent Netflix successes, and if you haven't watched it after this, check them out. One, Tinder Swindler, and the second one, Inventing Anna. And in both of these series, the main premise is that these young folks are reinventing themselves online or in real life to defraud people and institutions. So of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, we'll just do real quick with Tinder Swindler. It's literally a man who he's Israeli born, but I think he was living in the US throughout. And he was on Tinder and literally just, you know, making sure that women was paying him money from one way or the other. I'm making it very light, but it's quite the documentary.
Yeah, you should watch.
Yes, you should definitely watch. And then Inventing Anna.
I have to check those out. I have not seen either of those.
Yes. Inventing Anna. It was someone who, she is like Russian born, I think, or Germany raised, and she came to the US, to New York specifically, and just claimed herself to be a German heiress, like literally branded herself as a German heiress, and defrauded, like, you know, people so close to getting, you know, banks and everything to fund her for the building of her business. That was her main goal, to build a business here in New York. So
did she build the business, child? Did she build the business?
She's in jail. Or she just she was released earlier last year, I should say. But I think it's safe to say that there's power. There's true power in and dollars in personal branding and rebranding. But I think even more so, I bring those up to just say, like, I feel like are in an age of scam culture, and almost celebrating, in a sense, that scam culture. Like, so what are some of the branding errors people should watch out for, specifically digital? Because I think with something about this digital and online access takes people to the extreme sometimes when it comes to what they do and how they brand themselves. So,
well, I always say that Google is your friend. So if someone presents an opportunity to you, or they present themselves as, you know, having influence, or having, you know, the ability to change your life, enrich you, or what have you, you should always look to Google to see, did this person even exist 24, 36 months ago? And be able to tie back that connection. Is their digital story telling the same story that their mouth is telling me? So, you know, I think that that's one way that people can kind of protect themselves, and just, you know, proceed with caution. They always say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And, you know, if you can't Google somebody, or you can't find anything about them, then you're probably dealing with someone who is doing something unscrupulous. Because, I mean, we are digital world. I mean, I can look on Google and see where I lived 20 years ago. I was like, how did they know? Google knows. Google knows what we had for breakfast. They'll tell you, like, you're this many miles away from home. I'm like, I didn't ask you that. Can you please step out of my business? So Google is our friend, and we should look at it that way. And if we're approached with a situation or a person that we're interested in partnering, whether it's in business or in our romantic life, Google those people. The person that I'm dating, I looked up his tax bill, like, are your taxes paid? and that's, I was spelling his name incorrectly. And that's how I found out that I was spelling his name incorrectly, because I looked up his property tax bill, like, oh, Okay.
I love that. Yes.
She said, listen, don't get me in no financial mess. I don't want none of that. None of that. That is hilarious. I love that. Akila and I are taking notes. We're taking notes.
It's done.
I think that's really interesting though, right? Because I feel like to bring up the whole social digital space, and even though Google is your friend, and yes, we can totally Google someone and pull up profiles and see how it is. I mean, people really do actually go through the long and crazy extents to make fake Instagram profiles, fake YouTube and LinkedIn accounts and news, or like so many different things and it's hard to figure out what fake news is and what the real thing is, right? At times. And so I think even with that digital space, what else could we, I guess it's kind of like, what else can be done in a sense when it comes to businesses? I mean, people are, the things that Akila said, I mean, there's millions, tens of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars that are being flooded into this space of personal branding because people believe that much in what they say. So I know it is so important to brand yourself. And so to even pull it back to be like, as a Black woman, I guess, like, why do you think it's so important in particular as a Black woman and a Black woman in business to own your own business, to have your personal brand be so tight, so zipper tight, literally no air is coming through?
So you asked a couple of questions, and I think the first part of your question, yes, people will go through a lot of expense, but we also, and I think that's where that relationship with a higher power comes in. Trust your instincts. One of my favorite social medias is LinkedIn. And one of the reasons I like LinkedIn is because it connects you to someone that is already connected to that person. So I've got about 2,000 connections on LinkedIn. And I will hop in somebody's DMs like, hey, this person reached out to me and they want to do this multi-million-dollar deal and all of this. What was your experience working with them? And if that person doesn't really know that person or they can't vouch for the person to some extent, then that sends off all my spider senses. And I'm like, I'm just going to proceed with caution. And then the second part of your question was about being a Black woman and just really owning your space and defining your brand and making sure that it's crisp, it's tight. There are so many stereotypes about Black women. If we're too assertive, if we're too flamboyant, if we're too, they try to put us into these boxes and, use those stereotypes to limit our reach. And I am of the mindset that you can rewrite that script. Yes, I can be assertive as a business owner. I have to be assertive. I have, people that are depending on me for their livelihood. So I have to be assertive. I have to say what I mean and mean what I say. But that doesn't mean that I have to do it in a nasty way. That doesn't mean that I have to be offensive. So I always really try to, find that balance and, allow people to get to know me on a little bit more of an interpersonal level. If you follow me on any social media, you'll see pictures of my dogs. You'll see pictures of my kids. You'll see when I worked out and those types of things, because all of that is part of the Nahamani experience. Yes, I'm selling you this service and I want to help your business communicate your value, but I can't sell you that service if I don't allow you to know who I am and how I position myself and how I operate. I try to eat healthy. I try to use non-toxic products, clean beauty products. All of those things are part of who I am as a person. And I try to communicate that out. And that's important because I feel like the internet is great because it helps us to find our tribes. So regardless to what you're into, what you like, what you believe, what your persuasions are, there's a tribe of people out there that are looking to connect with you. They are looking to do business with you, but you have to be able to give them those nuggets and things that they need to be able to say, oh, that's my person right there. And I've had people, hire me for really important jobs because of something I said and how I said it. Like, oh, when you said, and it might not even be about business, but you were steadfast about what you said. about, the seasons, or you were steadfast about what you said about the foods you consume. And it really resonated with me. And then I started Googling you. They'll go and read a few of my blog articles or something. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, she knows what she's talking about. And they'll hire me to do really important work. I have some amazing clients just doing, changing the world. And I don't just say that because they're my clients and I love all of my clients, but they really are doing some important work. So it gives me that extra oomph that I need when I think right now I'm working on 29, 30 days without taking a day off. I have not taken a weekend off. I have not, every day there has been something that needed to be done, but the work that I'm doing is important. But it's about having those relationships and people understanding what I stand for and building those relationships with my clients and understanding what they stand for. When my eyes are tired and I'm wanting to just like put my hands in my hand to my head and just like, oh my God, or throw this computer. I wish sometimes that my office was higher up off the ground. So if I throw my computer right now, it's probably not going to break, and I'll still have to do work, and it'll just be all ugly and scratched up. So I'm looking to move to a 7th floor office. So if I throw my computer out the window, it breaks, and I don't have to do any work until my new computer comes.
I love that. I love that. And there's a lot of what you're saying there that's so interesting too, because we were having a conversation before and talking about the idea of like whether you want to be like showing yourself when it comes to promoting your brand or not, right? And it sounds like with you, you're kind of more so on the standpoint like, no, like me showing up and who I am and what I do is important to my brand because that's kind of what my brand is, and it kind of feeds itself. So it's so interesting though, specifically because I feel like that adds another layer of scrutiny or another layer of like, oh, is she really about this business because she's showing this and showing that versus that? But it sounds like no, it's the complete opposite effect that you're having.
I believe that people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So you want to give people an opportunity to get to know you. You want to give people an opportunity to like you. Not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay because I don't like everybody. And you want to help people build trust. So you want to be, and for me, branding isn't so much about like font colors, logos, all of those things are great. They're aspects of branding, the visual elements, but branding is about your reputation. Do you do what you say you're going to do? Do you show up in the way that you say you're going to show up? If you have convictions and you say that this is important to you, are you really following through with those convictions and using your brand or your power or your influence to really make a meaningful change in that space? We saw a lot of that with, in 2020 with the George Floyd case. And, brands were coming out and, they were all Black power and Black Lives Matter, but they weren't doing the work to really show up in that space and make a meaningful change. So you can put anything on social media, a nice little graphic, throw a little fist on the corner or whatever. That's not enough. But people want to know that you are really doing the work and you're really operating in that space. And, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to, you know what I mean? We all have good days. We all have bad days. And I think a lot of people kind of get that confused. Like, oh, I'm the face of my brand. I must always be flawless. Like, no. Real people make mistakes, and people will give you space to make mistakes if they know that you're coming from a place of love and a place of concern and, just being human. So, yeah. I'm all about getting to know people getting to know me and getting to know the people that I'm connected with. Like I don't just read like a person's little, like they give you 30-something characters for a bio. That doesn't tell me enough. I want to know, like, what are you doing? Where are you at? What spaces are you in? What rooms are you in? Because a lot of times what you'll find is people are in rooms that can change your lives. They can open doors for you that you didn't even know were there. Mm-hmm. And if you connect with people on that interpersonal level and treat people like people, they'll go way above and beyond what the business relationship calls for.
Yeah, that's great. And I think specifically in the space you're in, like personal branding, brand coaching, all of this change management, it requires some level of understanding, some level of relationship, some level of really knowing what this person is on day one and if they're showing that digitally, because you need to know if it's, if it's matching up or not. So that makes a lot of sense. I want to know, because we're talking about how important like personal branding just is, but like, what makes it so empowering when you finally figure that out, or when you're stepping into your truth when it comes to who you are as a person and who you are as a brand, like digitally? Like, what makes it why people even care? Why is it so fun? Like, why is it so good to just be, really in your personal brand?
So there's a quote, and I don't have it pulled up, so I'm not going to quote it exactly, but it was featured in Aquila and the Bee, and it's a Marianne Williamson quote where she says that, not only should you show up as your full self, but it's your obligation to do that. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you give other people permission to do the same. So, you really want, yes, me showing up helps you connect with me, helps you figure out if I'm the right fit for your business. But there's so many people whose lives you can impact by just being yourself and showing that, hey, okay, I have flaws, I have good days, I have bad days. I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. So, sometimes my good days are really good and sometimes my bad days are really bad. But being able to show that, people will see that and it resonates, and it gives them that permission to show up as their true, authentic self. So it's not even all about me doing it for me or me doing it for business, but doing it so that other people can feel the same. I had a young lady intern with me this summer. She was 17 years old, only needed a few credits for her senior year, and she interned with me and was doing social media management. She went back to school her senior year, so she stopped interning with me and was working at a local restaurant and wasn't getting that fulfillment. So she started doing some of the social media management stuff that she was doing when she was working with me. And some people will be like, oh, no, she's all in my space. But there's not room at the table for there is room at the table for all of us to eat. There is enough content that needs to be created out there that there could be 100 young ladies like this young lady. And she messaged me this morning and she asked me, she said, was it hard for you when you first started Nahamani.org? And I said, yes, honey. Entrepreneurship is hard, period. The beginning, the middle, all the growth hurts. The days when nobody's calling and the phone's not ringing hurts. It is just hard. It's not for the faint of heart. I said, we all experience that. She said, oh, I was starting to really doubt myself. I said, well, you're allowed to visit the pity party, but you're not allowed to stay there. You have to, deal with it, figure out a solution to get past it and get back to the work that needs to be done. And she was like, I'm going to get back to it. I was like, you better. So, you know what I mean? Like, for me, that was a big win. Yes, I had an amazing intern over the summer. Yes, my business I was able to do some things because of her services. But to be able to give her that encouragement and those words that she needed to get back to the work that needs to be done, that meant a lot to me. So,
yeah, it sounds like.
I hope I answered your question.
You did. Did.
It sounds just like a lot of personal branding. Like, would you say that it's something that, I guess maybe it's an obvious question, but that it has to come from like an authentic place, right? Like, if you have a brand like a beauty brand or something where like you don't have to be the face of it at all, like your brand still has to come up with some type of aesthetic, right? It has to show up in a space that makes people feel something or wants them to connect to something. So I guess in that question, it's kind of like, if you're not the face and you're not going to put yourself out there, maybe you're a shy, quiet person, super reserved and introverted, and you're having a beauty brand and you're like, it needs to be a little bold, a little classy, kind of, moody, whatever the energy of the brand is, like how you're separating the person from the product at that point. So I guess in that sense, like, how does that work? Because you're now not the personal brand. You are giving that to... You're
the brains behind the brand.
Exactly.
And that is, there are millions of business models that work really well. And that model works. So you can definitely hire someone or partner with someone that is okay with being the face of the brand. And nobody, I don't ever want somebody to feel like they have to be uncomfortable and do things that, just put them in sheer fear and, anxiety. Like that's not what it's about. There are people out there that will do that work for you for hire if you have the capital and can afford it. A lot of times when we're first starting our business, we don't have the capital and can't afford it. So we just have to put on a happy face and go for it. But there is nothing wrong with having someone be an ambassador for your brand, be the face of your brand, an influencer. Influencer marketing is so powerful because it helps to solve that problem of trust that we talked about. So if you can get someone that has a great relationship with their audience and their audience already trusts them to endorse your product or to take your product and put it out on the forefront, then you've already overcome that battle and you're so much ahead of the game than if you're just getting out there and just trying to do it all by yourself. You know, we don't, in society, we are a social people and we do better when we work together and work collaboratively. So one person might have a really good strength, and I'm sure that you and Akila probably bounce off of each other. Sometimes you're way up and she's like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this another day, and vice versa. So, you know, finding people that energize you, that support you, believe in you, and having those people around you is very important to your brand. Sometimes you're going to have to be the face of your brand, even if you are introverted, and there are tips and techniques that you can use to get over some of those fears. But if it's like debilitating anxiety and it's like it hurts to do it, then hire somebody. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But you want to make sure whomever you align yourself with, that they possess similar values. You know, they don't have to speak the exact same way that you speak. They don't have to do the exact same things, but you have to have some alignment there in the values and being able to trust that person. So I'm all for, you know, using different models. You know, some people aren't good at sales. If you're not good at sales, you should not be doing sales for your business. You should hire a sales representative. And that's what these big multinational corporations do. You don't see the CEO of Chrysler out there selling cars. He has a whole team of people that's their specialty. He may be good at, you know, coming up with innovative, you know, I'll use Tesla. I'll switch over to Tesla since Elon Musk is always in the news. Right. That is my thankful. If you listen to Elon, I'm ready for you. But he's an innovator. He doesn't have to go out and sell the cars. His job and his role and his strength is being innovative and coming up with solving problems that society we didn't even know we wanted to go to space. And he figured out a way for us to go. And then we're like, oh, well, I want to go too. Okay. You know, so business is all about solving problems. And you just have to really be able to understand what that problem is you're solving, and people that agree with you in some kind of way, like, okay, this is how we're going to solve this problem today. You know, and have a team around you, have people around you that lift you up and pour into you and give you that energy that you need to get over some of those fears.
Yes, yes. Okay, speaking of brands, let's take a minute to shout out one of our sponsors.
You tired? Your full-time job, 2 part-time jobs, and side hustle all have you stressed out? You can't even think about your next move, let alone what you're gonna have for dinner. You're feeling like you're one step away from your big break, but can't figure out what you're doing wrong? We can definitely relate here at the Black Creators Club. We have been looking high and low for solutions until we met the founders of Fully Loaded. So take a deep breath. You know we got you, and we know exactly what you need. Grab some ice and chill with Loaded Lemonade, a refreshing drink made with filtered water, cane sugar, and infused cannabis. With 3 flavors to choose from, kiwi, strawberry, and blackberry, a little definitely goes a long way. Take a sip and transform your vibe. Fully Loaded, a lifestyle brand that provides superior goods for all. Please drink responsibly and follow your local laws and regulations regarding cannabis consumption.
Okay, welcome back, y'all. So again, we are joined by Nahamani Yisrael, talking about all things Nahamani.org, personal branding, all the things that we need. So we want to make sure that we really highlight too, that you are now full-time with Nahamani.org, which is again, a digital marketing agency. That is incredible. What was your journey though, with getting to the point where you're able to, you know, forego your 9 to 5 and embark on your business full-time?
So this is a very interesting story. So I graduated from college. I was a non-traditional college student, graduated in 2016. And I was doing my business kind of on the side for some close friends and people that I already had a relationship with. and working full time, and I'm a single mom. So I had like 4 jobs. And I was super stressed out. And I was in therapy, and I had used my FMLA at my 9 to 5 job and started, going to therapy like during the day. One point I had taken some time off, and I went into my therapist's office, and she said, "There's something different about you." I said, "Oh yeah, I'm using my FMLA. I haven't been to work in like 7 days. I go back in, so many days or whatever." She's like, "You are like, this is like night and day. This is like a new Nahamani. What is going on?" And we talked and talked, and I was telling her about, business opportunities that were presenting themselves. I was telling her about all of these exciting things. And she asked me a question about my job, and I started crying. And she said, whoa, pause, wait, hold up. She said, "If you're this happy and this whole and this excited about your business venture and this upset and this emotional about your job, it might be time for you to leave that job." So when I went back to work, it happened to be exactly 14 days before my birthday. I put in my 2-week notice, and June 29th of 2017, I fired my day job and I hired myself. And so for almost 5 years now, I have been a full-time entrepreneur. I have never, ever, ever worked this hard in my life. There's no way, like, for a job to, like I said, I haven't taken a day off in almost 30 days. For a job, I wasn't doing that. That was not even an option. I need my Saturdays, my Sundays. I need to get off at, 5, 6, whatever. Like, but as an entrepreneur, I'm able to muster through it. I'm tired, but the work must be done. And I know that there's going to be a day where I can pause. I actually have it marked on my calendar. Like, okay, I have nothing on this day and the day after that, so we are closed. And that's one of the fun things about being an entrepreneur. Being closed means I update my calendar, closed. Put on my out of office and so, I have been working as a full-time entrepreneur. There have been times when, money was tight, and, credit card bills and credit card debt was high. And there have been times when, my bank account looked luscious and lovely, and I couldn't spend a dime of it because I knew I had payroll in other people's lives. Like, oh, my bank account looks so pretty. I could go to the Bahamas. I could do all of these things if I didn't have to pay payroll, if I didn't have to do payroll on Friday. So, there is definitely a balance and a give and a take, but I wouldn't trade it anything in the world. And my therapist at the time, what she said is, you have to put a value on your happiness and your peace of mind. And yes, I had just purchased a car, so I had a car note. I was living in a house, and my housing expenses had increased. And I was nervous, and she was like, "Go and run your business. If you need to, if it fails, you can always go get another job. But you would be remiss if you didn't take this opportunity to give it all that you got." And here I am, 2022, and the business is growing. And I feel like every other small business, I can't hire enough people. I can't, I hire 2 people, and then work for 6 people shows up, and I'm like, okay, I need 4 more people. And then I hire them and get them onboarded, and then more work shows up. And opportunities are coming to find me. So I do say some affirmations every day that I attract wealth. And boy, those things work.
Yes. Oh my God. Wait, what are some of those affirmations? We want to know.
One of the things I always remind myself, and to kind of deal with some of the anxiety and the internal things that go on, is that I am safe, I'm secure, and I am loved. So, if I'm starting to have anxiety or starting to get scared or my mind is racing, I will try to use all 5 of my senses at one time. What do I smell? What do I see? What do I hear? What do I feel? And I'll touch something solid, and it just kind of grounds me and brings me back to the center. One of the affirmations that I say is that I am one with the universe. So everything that the universe wants me to have, it wants me just as bad as I want it. So all I have to do is just stay in alignment, stay in a peaceful place, do the work, and everything that I desire is going to find its way to me because it wants me too. It's not just me out there like grinding. It is attraction. So.
That's
we love
okay.
That. Right.
Okay.
Akila and I are all about all of that. I'm sitting here and I'm like, honestly, like to manifest something or to feel calmer and to meditate. I just want people to know too, like it's a practice. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can't just like wake up and then be like, I meditated today. Like it is something that you have to like practice and work on, because it's hard to get your mind to just rest for that moment and then also be in tune with your surroundings for that moment to then get yourself back in check. Like it is a whole thing. So if you guys are going to get into it, I suggest it, but I also think like be patient with yourself because it's not going to come overnight with that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna also commend on the fact that, like, you know, your journey to doing this full time is remarkable, because it also included you tapping into obviously yourself, checking yourself, but also going out and seeking help when you needed it, you know, and not even know that it was directly related to this business. Like you weren't going to therapy to figure out Nahamani.org. Like that was not what it was. But at the same time, you really focusing on you and getting your personal brand together in a sense, like was able for you to then be able to say, oh, okay, wow, like somebody pointed out something and I received it. And, you know, I was in a space to obviously receive it and do something about it too. So I think that's a lot of good nuggets that you just shared in your journey. And thanks for even like sharing that.
Yeah. I also want to bring up the story of you saying how like when you got started and like the times that you got started, which was like in the 90s, right? And I think it was something that you said that I loved. It was like, what are people going to do at 2 a.m. when you aren't there to help them? Right. And so I want you to kind of talk about that a little bit, and we could discuss just like the time periods and how it's now changed a ton.
Absolutely. So when I first started designing websites, it was in the late 90s. And I really wanted to help people be able to show up, have their business be a little bit more automated, and have these spaces where people can learn about your business without you always having to be there and always feeling like you always have to be on. So I always use the analogy of 2 a.m. That is, I use it at least 20 times a week, literally. And it is, you know, when you want your website to be able to stand and speak for itself. And a lot of people, and I noticed before I was designing websites, some websites are like super vague, super like, you know, this is who I am, call me, you know, here's my phone number, and you have to tap into me to get any information. I am of the mindset that your website should be able to stand alone and at least start that conversation, start converting people, you know, and we don't have to get into the whole sales funnels because then I feel like I need a PowerPoint. But, but you know, you want your website to be able to draw people in, to really be able to get them into the experience and into that pipeline, whether you're there to answer their call or not. So what is it that people need to know in order to want to do business with you? What do they need to know to do the transaction with you? How are they going to pay you? Are you going to invoice them? Is it going to be electronic? Is it going to happen? Is there a down payment? Or do you know, all of those things, your website should be able to give people all of that information easily and with, you know, at the click of a button. You know, and in the 90s, cell phones were slow. Some of them had browsers and they had all these things, but they weren't doing any of the stuff that they're doing right now. So, you know, we were using dial-up.
I remember.
And so your website had to be able to convert people very quickly using terrible technology. So it had to load fast, and it had to answer all their questions, and it had to, you know, back then, everybody had a Flash movie. Before you came to their website, things had to move around. Oh my God, it was terrible. Oh my God, I have created some hideous websites. If you're ever on the Wayback Machine, there are some bad ones back there that I am responsible for. I apologize. I did not know what I know now. But so today, things are a lot more streamlined. People are a lot more accustomed to using technology. So, you know, the digital divide is still there, but most people have some type of access, especially in first world countries, have some type of access. There's like more devices than there are people. So most people have some type of devices and some type of way to get information. So it's really just about making that connection and making it easier for them to find your information over your competitors. So now every business is online, every brand is online, every person has, you know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of information. If you Google something, it'll tell you like in 0.2 seconds, we found 900 trillion hits. And if you're not in the first like 100, then people aren't going to find you. So, you know, now it's really becoming about like, how can I stand out? How can I make the right amount of noise at the right time for people to be like, oh, that's what I need right there. I didn't even know I wanted to go to space. I mean, like that is a real thing. Like, so you have to be able to kind of have that forethought. And what are people going to need 2 years from now? What is that experience going to be like? And it's one of the reasons why I really love teaching. So I teach an entrepreneurship mindset class, and I teach low to moderate income individuals. So I feel like that's an area entrepreneurship can really be a gateway and a life changer for self-sustainability. But my reasons for teaching are very self-serving. I teach so that I can learn new things. So I believe that my head can only hold so much information at a time. So if I teach what I know and I tell you everything I know, then I can go out and learn new stuff. And new stuff is being created. I want to learn about digital real estate because I believe, you know, there's only so much earth. We can't, I mean, other than Dubai, you can't like make more earth. But, you know, I want to be able to understand digital real estate and how can we sell real estate that is intangible. And what does that mean? And what is that experience going to be like? So I have to like start really like figuring out what is the world going to be like 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. And it's going to be so much more digital. Like when Facebook changed their name to Meta, if that wasn't a big red flag to all of us that we need to be paying attention to this metaverse, and, you know, this is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I forget how many millions they had to pay for the name Meta because there was already a company operating under that name. But they had to pay to acquire that name and to be able to use it publicly. And for them to invest that amount of time, that amount of energy, that amount of money, it's something big on the forefront. So we need to be paying attention and tuned in. And, you know, this is my industry. So of course I should be tuned into this, but what's happening in your industry? What are the disruptors? How can you be a part of that disruption? And how can you capitalize on, you know, what the future holds? You know, as a business owner and entrepreneurs, we all got to dust off our crystal balls. We all have to be forward thinking. And that really comes from talking to people. The more you talk to people that have the problem that your business solves, the more you'll understand that problem from a 360-degree area and be able to see little nuances and opportunities for you to pivot. You know, if the pandemic didn't teach us anything, is that you have to pivot. You have to be agile. You have to be ready to respond to shifts. You got to, you know, which way is the wind blowing? Okay, how do I get over there so that I can capitalize on that wind and turn it into electricity?
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
it.
I think
And
that,
I am giving all my geek out today, y'all.
no, you're doing
We're grabbing it all.
Exactly. We know all the gems, all the little nuggets, the little chicken nuggets, the golden nuggets, all the nuggets. I wanted to rewind. I wanted to talk about just how you were saying stand out, right? Like stand out in the digital world. You're on Google. How are you, those top SEOs being, you know, searched for? You said being a disruptor, right? I think that was a great term to use. Okay, so as a brand, okay, and let's use us as an example just so that we can give people like a tangible thing to like wrap their heads around. We're coming to you as a brand. We're a podcast, we're a media brand, and there's a ton of podcasts, and there's a lot of people talking about being a Black creator, what it means to be Black in the community, and like all these different types of conversations, entrepreneurship, business, all the things, right? And so we come to and we're like, Nahamani, like we need some help. What do we do to stand out, to make noise, to be a disruptor on the internet so people are searching for us? So I guess at that point now, what would you do to help? Like what is that specialty, that special sauce that you're doing to sprinkle on your clients?
I have a special tool that I would use if you came to me with this, and I didn't create the tool, so I can't claim it as my own, but I use an opportunity discovery canvas. And it has 9 questions that I would ask you about your business. And it's strictly from a problem solving perspective. So I would want to understand, what is the problem that you guys are solving in the space of wanting to be able to increase the voice and visibility among Black creators. And then I would start to pull that apart, just like an onion, and go to the next layer as to, okay, from that Black creator's perspective, what are their pain points? What keeps them up at night? And the one thing I hate about Zoom, and as you see, I talk with my hands, is that you can't see when I do this demonstration that I always have to like do it a little higher. But what is that hole that lives in them that they just can't get filled with anything else except for the Black Creators Club? What is that unique positioning, a unique service, unique value proposition that your brand is the only brand that can fill that space? And you shouldn't, and I always tell my clients, you don't sell the steak, you sell the sizzle. You sell that feeling, that emotional, this is a great opportunity as a Black creator. The fact that you guys have a podcast and you have a space where we can get on here, we can have fun, we can laugh, but we can talk about business and some really meaningful, and you guys talk about a lot of really meaningful topics. So, for me, that's the space, is that, we can have fun and we can show our personality, but we can show that we are also bringing value and helping to educate and empower people that didn't feel like they had a lane. They didn't feel like the large media companies were really there for them, or if they weren't authentically there for them. Yes, they might put Black in front of entertainment television, but is it really showing their, and no digs to, but is it really creating the space that the Black creators needed? And the answer is clearly no, because your podcast is doing great. So then you start to ask those creatives, okay, so what are you currently doing to elevate your voice and to connect with audiences around the world? And you'll come up with, and this is like where I encourage my clients to brain dump. So what are they doing? And you'll come up with thousands of things that they're doing. Well, they're doing this, and some people are on this platform, and podcasting alone, there's a zillion podcast platforms, and some people are doing this differently. They're on this tube and this, all of these things, and then you start to break those apart even a little bit further and say, well, how are we different from this one thing? Okay, if we're talking, YouTube University, because there's not anything you can't YouTube and learn how to, I learned how to change a sensor on my car because it was driving me crazy on YouTube University. But how are you different from YouTube University? The video that I watched about changing the sensor was boring. I had to keep pausing it because they were talking as if I knew what these words were and figuring it out. But you guys are relatable. It's fun. It's vibrant. I can watch it. I can laugh and learn something at the same time. So you have to really understand what your unique positioning is and how you show up differently than what's already in the marketplace. And once you find that, that connects with your audience, and just your audience, you don't need to solve the problem for the whole world. It's just your people. It's just your tribe. And once you figure out what your tribe needs and what they want and what keeps them up at night and what they just can't find anywhere else, then you can formulate the words to be able to tell them that it's here. Come to the Black Creators Club because we have exactly what you've been looking for. It's here. We've created this for you. You don't have to stay up at night. You can sleep now. It's here. But then you also always have to be thinking, okay, so once we fill that, then what are they going to need next year, next month, next time, and be ready to pivot and catch someone, they have their next sleepless night.
That's it. I love that. And this was not, we love to toot our own horn, but we love it more. So that's great.
Right. This is impromptu, but that is how I help brands, is by really asking some of the tough questions and giving people just a place to just dump all the ideas out, and then we put it back together. We put it back together in a way that only resonates with that target audience, because that's all that matters. And I always tell people, if you're speaking to everybody, then you're speaking to nobody. But if you're speaking to that one specific group or that one tiny nuance, and I love to use Target's logo for this example. So Target should definitely endorse me for doing this because I do it all the time. But in Target's logo, you have all of the red rings, but you're only speaking to that little tiny red dot right in the center. And you can see that, you know what I mean? Even though it's not up on the screen in front of us, we all know what that logo looks like. And we all know how little that dot is. Those are your people. And that's all you have to worry about. If you focus on them, the people in those other rings will notice and they will come and they will make themselves fit into that little dot. And you don't have to go out and chase everybody and try to be everything to everybody.
That's great. And I love that example. And even earlier, I mean, all the gems, like really, folks don't focus on the steak, they focus on the sizzle. And that's true. I love that.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
It's so true, because you can find steak wherever, but that sizzle, that sizzle is really
Right.
what makes you different. And so
It makes
speaking
your
of
mouth
that, like,
water.
it makes your mouth water. So tell us about some of those clients you've had. Toot your own horn when it comes to the clients that they have their mouth watering because they're like, what Nahamani has been able to do for their business, it's amazing. So what are some of the client success stories that you can share with us?
I have had some amazing clients, and I love my clients. One of the success stories that I love to talk about, I talked about it in my 2021 brand wrapped up, is the Makeup Lab. It is a Black woman-owned business. She is located here in Cincinnati, but she services clients all throughout the world, and she's a makeup manufacturer. So she originally entered the marketplace because she wanted to sell her own cosmetics line. And she did the same thing we all do. She went to Google, 2:00 in the morning, and she typed in, and, how do I get lip gloss for Black women? And, all of these overseas companies came up. She ordered samples and they came in and they were terrible. The pigments weren't right. They were sticky. They didn't last. And she was dissatisfied. And then she tried it again, and the same thing kept happening. And she figured out that there was a problem, that the makeup manufacturers that are well known didn't start off creating products for Black women. They started off creating products for other races, and then decided somewhere down the line, oh, we're going to make some colors that Black people like too. She took a different approach, and she went into the market creating products for Black women. And her products sell to, and they work beautifully well. My daughter is a traveling makeup artist, and she keeps stealing my new lipstick from the Makeup Lab. So if Anne-Marie Dawes is listening, I want my lipstick back. When your plane touches down, I want my new lipstick back. I know you have my lipstick.
Period.
But so the Makeup Lab was, she had started off, and she was, out there grinding and hustling, and, she was doing okay. And she and I started working together a little less than a year ago. And this is also another testament to keep showing up, even when you think no one is listening, they are. So someone had recommended me to her and told her, oh, you need to work with Nahamani, she can help you. And over a year went by. We're in the pandemic, and, business and life is happening. She had never reached out. And there was one post that I posted, and she said that post was she took it as a sign from God that it was time for her to connect with me. So if you're posting every day and you're only getting a few likes and you're not seeing the bank account climb up just because of that one post, keep posting. People are watching, people are listening. It just isn't, the time isn't right just yet. So she and I connected, and we started working on her branding, helping her to communicate the problem that she was actually solving wasn't really about lip gloss or eyeliner or any of that. She was creating opportunities for other entrepreneurs, people that wanted to get into the cosmetics business. The cosmetics business is like a $200 billion a year business. So there's a lot of real estate, and there's a lot of landscape out there to cover. And so people want to get into the business, and they do the same thing that she did. They Google and they find horrible products, or they can't find what they're looking for. The minimum orders are a barrier to entry. So, not everybody can afford to order 10,000 units of something they don't even know if they're going to like. So she started figuring out ways that she could solve those problems, break it down for that particular group. And this past year, she's now making 6 figures because she's communicating differently about her brand. She's showing up for her brand and for her clients in a unique way. She's talking to them about that experience. Do you want to enter the cosmetic industry, but you don't know where to start? I can help you. I did the same thing that you're doing, and now I can help save you all that time, frustration, money that you'll lose. Most cosmetic manufacturers, and this was before the pandemic, it would take about 8 weeks to get your samples in. She can get your samples to you in 2 to 4 weeks because she is domestic, and she has a fulfillment center already. Her stuff is already ready. She's got her shades outlined, and she can get your stuff to use in 2 to 4 weeks. 4 weeks tops. You can have your samples And if you like it, add another 2 weeks. In 6 weeks, you can be in business. Versus the competition, it's an 8-week turnaround time just to get samples. And if you like it, then you got to order, a boatload, literally a boatload. And then where are you going to store it? What is the shelf life? How long is it going to be good for? All of those things. She has taken all of that out of the equation and helped these people. I'm like, you're making it possible for these entrepreneurs to make 6-figure incomes doing something that they're passionate about. You're not selling lip gloss. You're selling opportunities, and being able to talk about it in that way. Her business has taken off, and she is doing phenomenal sales. And she's, hundreds of businesses have started because she's been able to communicate that differently.
That's amazing. So it's not even like changing what she's doing, but how she's messaging it, which is equally, if not more important. So it's awesome to hear that that's what you're doing. What other messages should folks listening know?
Listen, okay, you guys, if y'all are listening in or watching on the tube, y'all already know what it is. We are on episode 58. Like, come on now. Like, y'all already know what it is. Please continue to support us. Please like, subscribe, and comment on our videos on YouTube. Rate us on Apple Podcasts. It goes a long way. A little goes a long way. Y'all all just got to put 5 stars and a cute little message. That's it. It's real easy. It's real simple. Please follow us on Instagram at the Black Creators Club. If you think you have an amazing opportunity or you know someone that would be a great guest on the podcast, please email us at theblackcreatorsclub@gmail.com. And continue to love and listen. We love what we do, and that's why we're able to bring amazing guests like Nahamani on the podcast and continue to spread the great good news and the great message of all of these amazing Black-owned businesses, you guys. So please continue to support us.
Yes. So Nahamani, we are not done with you just yet. We're transitioning over to our game. We know you do a Women in the Spotlight. And so we're going to split this up and be like, keep your biz in the spotlight. All right. That's the name of our game. And the reason what we're going to be doing is like giving you a couple scenarios, and you just share what you would do as potentially someone who brings them on as a client, or just a suggestion that you have to solve their business need. So the first one, it's 2022 and your client finally decides that they're interested in monetizing on social. There are all these apps out there. Like, which one should they focus on?
That is a great question. And the answer is, it depends. So it depends on where your tribe is at the present time. So you really have to spend the time, do the research to understand, where are your people? Where are they spending their time? What are they spending their time on social media doing? And be able to show up in those spaces in a natural and organic way, so that it doesn't always feel, because people will put up barriers if we feel like we're being advertised to. But if you just show up and you're there, like, you're always there. Every time I look around, there you are. That is a great way to be able to get the right people to pay attention. So it really depends. If you're business to business, I love LinkedIn. My brand is a business to business brand, which is why I spend a lot of time and invest a lot of energy in being visible on LinkedIn, because that's where business and decision makers spend their time. They're looking for things. And I'm like, hey, here I am. Yep, I'm here again. Here I am again. Oh, did you miss me? I'm over here. So just making sure that you are present in the spaces that matter most to your target audience. And it's going to be different for every target audience, that you won't know if you don't ask.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Love that. LinkedIn almost sounds like it's a good place to find a man, the way you describe that. Okay. So your second scenario is your client has a new business and is looking to put their name out into the world. What is the best thing they can do to gain eyes on their brand new website?
On their brand new website. So they need to be visible on Google. And being visible on Google will help you be visible on other search engines, but they all are basing their algorithm off of Google. I always tell people that the most important thing is making sure that you have good content, and that your content is structured in a way that the robots, because Google is not sending people out to review your website anymore. Google is actually using robots. So your content needs to be structured. You gotta have meta tags. You gotta use your keywords in your alt tags. You actually have to use the words that you say are important in your text copy. So you can't just say, oh, this is a keyword, it's important. It needs to be in there multiple times. And that is the best way to make sure that your website gets the recognition that it deserves and gets to optimum ranking. There's a little trick that I always tell my customers when they have a new website. Invest in Google Ads. Google Ads spend, let's say you spend $25. I mean, we spend that on a good dinner. Or not even a good dinner, a not so good dinner.
A drink.
on a mediocre dinner, you spend $25. Invest in Google Ads. What Google does, because you've invested in Google Ads at the early stages, you will see those. I've seen customers 4, 5, 6 years later, after they stop spending on Google Ads, still get great ranking. So it's a great way to kind of speed up the process because the robots are crawling and cataloging the entire World Wide Web. So they don't always get to your website within the first 4 weeks. But if you invest in a Google ad, $25, $30, 40, whatever your budget can withstand, you will see yourself show up in Google at a higher ranking, and it will last for years to come.
That's great. That's a great tip. That's a great tip. So your client is looking to brand themselves, right? So as a digital strategist, what would you say are the top 3 things that they need?
The first thing, and I've said this a couple of times, is to really understand how they are seen in the world. So what are their important characteristics? I like to tell people to ask several people to describe them in 3 words or less. And the reason why I restrict it is if you give people a lot of space, like, hey, can you describe me? People will add a lot of fluff and they'll say a lot of words that don't mean anything, just to fill up space. And, you know, it's great for your ego, but it does nothing for helping you define your personal brand. So ask people to define you in 3 words or less. Take that information and use that to say, okay, this is how everyone says that I show up, I'm vibrant or I'm positive, I'm smiling, all of those things that people see about me, and how can I use that and leverage that in my branding? I like to use the example. I'll go back to Target because we all love some Target in our life. And now that they have Starbucks in there, I'm like, why would I go anywhere else? These are my people. They get me. They understand what I need. I need my coffee, and I didn't know I need that, but I need that too. And so imagine yourself as if you are sitting on a shelf at Target, and what does your packaging look like? And this isn't about, like clothes or hair color, lip color, any of that, but what is it about your personal brand that makes people want to take it off the shelf, flip it over, look at it, smell it, taste it, touch it, whatever your brand is? What is it that makes people want to experience it? So think of yourself in the same way that you think about packaging and things at Target. Things at Target, I'll spend more for an item at Target than I will at another big box store. It's packaged nice, it smells good, it's in the right line light, like I don't have to reach up too high, I don't have to reach up too low, then down too low, it's right where I need it to be. They get me. I swear, those are my people. So those are some of the things that you can use in your personal branding to just figure out how you want to show up in the world. What are your non-negotiables? There are some things that I just cannot do. And, there's certain people I won't represent certain clients, not because they're bad people, but they just don't align with what I want to be known for in the world. So, all money is not good money. And you have to have some convictions, some value points, and you have to stick to it. Sometimes it's tough. So those bills come back every month. Like, dang, didn't I just say yeah?
Very, very true. Very true. Okay. Your client is starting a business and wants to sell something, but they don't really know what it is. Okay. How do they determine what product or service is best for them and their personal brand?
So they want to sell something. Is it tangible or intangible, or does it matter?
They're just like, I want to make entrepreneurship sounds fun, business sounds fun. I feel like I'm great at it, but I just don't know what I would do.
So for a person like that, I typically would ask them, what is one thing that you would do for free? What is something that you find joy in and you would do it if money was not an object, money was not on the table? What would you do for free? And then you have to figure out a way to monetize that. So how can I then take this thing that I'm passionate about, that I love doing anyway, because you're probably doing it right now, and turn it into a revenue generating machine? And it's just about finding people that need that special sauce. They need what you have to offer. They can't find it anywhere else. And just connecting with those people, being hyper focused on just those people, and showing up in a way, talk to people. So if you know, okay, I want to help women-owned businesses. And so what are women-owned businesses struggling with? Go talk to some female entrepreneurs. The more that you talk to, the more of an expert you'll be at solving their problems. So when I took statistics in college, they said that you need to talk to at least 30 people. Triple that. Talk to 90 people. And it doesn't have to be like a formal survey with your clipboard and you're like following somebody around. Just have conversations. I do tell people to use your note-taking app on your phone, because we all have our phones with us 24/7. So use your note-taking app and write down what they tell you, because you will, like, the more time between the time that they tell you and the time that you write it down, your memory does some weird things and you start to forget and it kind of gets mixed up. So have your phone with you, talk to them like a human being. Don't be a robot, be a normal person. And then when you get done talking to them, go and type it in your phone. If you can have notes there, that's fine, but be a normal person. Don't be a weirdo.
Major takeaway. No, I mean, a lot of great tips. The last one that we have. So let's say complete opposite client comes in the room. Like, this client feels like they have a great sense of self and a personal brand that is unmatched. But they're just like, okay, now that I know myself and I know my brand, what do I do next?
Then it's time to take them completely out of the equation. It's time to take them completely out of the equation and only do everything that needs to be done from the end user's perspective. So, like, when I build a website, I'm not building a website for the person that's paying me. I mean, even though I am doing it on their behalf, I'm building a website for the person that's coming to their website and looking for their products and services. So what do they need to know? What is bothering them? What words do they need to hear and see or read, because it's a website? But what words are going to mean something to them? Because, you know, some of my friends, I have to speak in the vernacular, and there are different vernaculars. It's not always just, you know, speaking more Black than what I probably do naturally. But I have to speak in a way that resonates with their audience and drives them to action. So at that point, they have a great presence. They're self-aware. They know they're the bomb. They're the greatest at what they do. It's time to take them completely out of it. And it's so uncomfortable. It's, oh my God, people resist because they do. They get so stuck on themselves and how great they are. And, you know, their stuff doesn't stink and all of that. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to hear nothing about you. What about them? What do they need? And you know, after like redirecting 5 and 6 and 7 times, they finally get it. Like, oh, I'm not in business I'm not in business to pat myself on the back. I'm in business to solve someone else's problems. And how do I need to do that? And once you break past that barrier, because it is a barrier for a lot of people, like, what? But nope, I don't want to hear about you.
It's true though, and it's such a great exercise. I love that was even your answer to this question, because you could notice it. There's certain brands or even personal brands that go on their pages and it's like 6 about me sections. It's like, where is why am I here, sis?
How do I fit into this equation? Right. Why am I even here? Because you seem to be okay all by yourself over there. So you stay over there. I'm gonna go over here and hang out with this page that it might not be as aesthetically pleasing. No. It might not load, but it talks to me. They get me. They understand me. I'll go over there to the bootleg page before I sit there and spend another minute hearing you pat yourself in the back.
That's it. That's it. Nahamani, oh my gosh, like we'll just do a virtual round of applause. That was incredible. And I think that's only the tip of the iceberg of what you do. So let our listeners know where they can find you, where they can perhaps work with you. If after this, if they are super convinced, as you should be, to say, let's look into booking you for one of your services.
So they can find me on my website, which is nahamani.org. It is nahamani.org. I am on all the socials. I am as Managed Cincy on Instagram and Twitter. I'm on Facebook. This is nahamani.org. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn, several different ways. You can connect with me personally because I'm a real person. It's not just a business. Or you can follow the business, the brand, which is nahamani.org. But I do hop in my DMs, say hello, talk to me. I am super approachable. I like people. And that's how I connect and build relationships. It's, we'll get to the business part of it if that's what it's supposed to be. But let's start off with getting to know each other, how I can help you and what your pain points are. So holler at me, get in my DMs, send me an email, jump on my website. I have a branding blog, which is the influencer branding blog, and it's packed full of nuggets, branding tips. I'll go out and I'll interview subject matter experts. So you're not always just hearing the Nahamani way of doing things. Like, what are the experts doing and how are they showing up? And I try to give you actionable items that you can take away from that from day one. So if you read a blog article, there should be at least 3 things that you can take away and start doing that day. So I'm on YouTube. I'm not on YouTube as much as I should be, but we're working on that. But my team and I, we are excited to work with businesses in all different industries. So we don't just work with one type of client. And we can work with people because of the great technology with Zoom and all of that. We can work with people anywhere in the world. That as long as the person that we're working with understands and can communicate with us in English, because that is the only language that I am currently fluent in. Working on some others, but for right now, but we can work with people all over the world. And my team is very diverse, age, school of thought, color, all of those things, which makes it so that we are able to give really good perspective on all the problems that our clients are solving. So it's not just the Nahamani thought or not the Nahamani way of doing things. You get a whole team of us that are Nahamani trained, because there's some pretty tight standards to working for my team, and I am I'm very focused on quality and making sure that what we're putting out there represents the brands that we're helping. So I am sometimes a tough boss to work for, but our clients love what we put out there and they love the work that we're doing, and we love it, which is why we work so hard for it.
Awesome. Amazing. And you can find me chatting media and life motivation, all with a dash of style at Akila Friends.
Yes, and Nahamani, we might be having to call you for some of them services, girl. You was selling it all the way up the river, girl. We are here for it all. You guys can find me chatting everything Black-owned business, and of course the Black Creators Club at Ebony Chapman 12 on Instagram.
And of course, you guys keep up with the Black Creators Club on all platforms, mainly Instagram though, at the Black Creators Club, and listen to us on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Everything is at the Black Creators Club. Thank you so much for joining us, and to remember to abide by your ABCs. Oh, Nahamani, what's up?
I wanted to tell people to always make sure when they go on YouTube that they pull up the Black Creators Club first. Whatever you watch after that is fine, but make sure you watch this first. You get up in the morning, having your coffee, watch this first, get those episodes in. So I just wanted to remind people that it does matter.
Yes, and we needed that reminder. They needed that reminder, okay? Abide by your ABCs, y'all. Always
be
creating.
We're going to have to figure that out on Zoom next time.
We're going to figure it out. Always be creating. Bye.